Good evening, everyone. This is your evening news recap. I hope all of you guys had a wonderful day. My day was all right. Today is Wednesday. It is April 14th. Got quite a bit of good news to cover. We got one segment from the Trump administration today, a segment on Bray Garcia, and a couple things in the other news segment. Overall, hope all you guys had a wonderful day. My day was all right. Didn't do much. Went to a mental health conference at school. That was pretty entertaining. My backup plan for if I don't become a politician is working with children in residential facilities. So, went to a presentation along the lines of work similar to that, and it was pretty entertaining. But other than that, didn't do much. You know, that's just how it goes sometimes. But with that being said, let's get started. We're going to open up today with the Trump administration segment. We have one topic to cover today, as a federal judge has found probable cause to hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt. Judge James Boasberg ruled on Wednesday that there is a probable cause to find the Trump administration in criminal contempt of court for violating his last order to pause all deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. The Trump administration previously flew migrants to El Salvador against Boasberg's ruling to return them to the United States. Boasberg wrote in his ruling, "The court ultimately determines that the government's actions on that day demonstrate willful disregard for its order, sufficient for the court to conclude that probable cause exists to find the government in criminal contempt." The White House said it plans to immediately appeal the ruling, saying in a statement, "The Supreme Court ruled that Judge Boasberg has no right to seize control of the president's authority to conduct foreign policy. He should have never issued the order." A DOJ spokesperson said in a statement, "His underhanded attempts to maintain power over the case is a judicial power grab that the Department of Justice will fight by all means necessary." Boasberg gave the federal government until April 23rd to respond to try to purge their contempt and prove that they do not violate his order. The government must also provide the name of the person or people who chose not to halt the Alien Enemies Act deportations out of the U.S. Despite court order. Boasberg said he would refer them for prosecution. Boasberg also said if the Trump administration and Justice Department do not prosecute his criminal contempt of court cases, he will appoint someone who will prosecute. This is big news, and that was a lot of news. The Trump administration did break the law. There's no questioning that. There's no question on any of that. It's very clear that they did break the law. The new question is if the president will listen to this ruling. The president has disobeyed court rulings in this administration so far on multiple occasions, and it's leading us into a constitutional crisis, which is going to be a huge problem. If he continues to disobey rulings, and if he continues to disobey this ruling, it does seem that there will be consequences for it, but it does remain unclear what happens. I've heard that someone might get arrested, maybe the entire Trump administration, and I've heard that this is on grounds for impeachment, and it really could mean a lot of things. It's just unclear by the current ruling. So we'll see how this one goes. I have a feeling that next week will probably be pretty entertaining. So we'll see what happens. Okay, Bray Garcia. We have one segment on him today, as a Maryland senator has been denied access to Bray Garcia in El Salvador. But I do just want to say there is a lot of news coming out about this situation, and it's been hard for me to find information on each topic. So if I'm not bringing you a topic, it's not because I'm not trying to bring you a topic, but it's because I truly cannot find any information to bring to you. And I don't know if that's because my Google's being blocked out and other people can see it, or if it's another situation. But, I'm trying to get you as much news as possible, and I want to bring you accurate news that are important, so not only important sources, but good sources have brought me information on and bring information on. Because, I'm not going to bring a source that I've never heard of and might not trust. At the end of the day, I don't want to give you guys false information. If that makes sense, I would hope it does. Um, but anyways, let's get started. A Maryland senator has been denied access to Abrego Garcia in El Salvador. A top Salvadorian official rejected Senator Chris Van Hollen's of Maryland's request to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Van Hollen met with Felix Ula of El Salvador, the vice president of the country, and framed the deportation as an illegal abduction. He asked for an in-person visit to ensure Abrego Garcia's safety and health. He was denied the opportunity, saying they told him that he couldn't promise that. In a post shortly before departing, the senator said his goal was to show the Trump administration and El Salvador's government that we are going to keep continuing to fight to bring Abrego Garcia home until he returns to his family. He even teased future trips by U.S. lawmakers, saying there will be more members of Congress coming. As mentioned, there's so much news coming out about him, and I want to bring you accurate news and not news that's only been reported on by like nobody. And you know, trying to get you the most accurate version of what's going on and the most up to date version of what's going on. But honestly, I still think he's dead, and I think the reason that nobody is around and nobody's allowing any meetings and why he hasn't come back is because he's dead. I mean, what else? What else is there to say about that? If it's this hard for you to find a man, clearly something's going wrong there. And I mean, at the end of the day, I honestly feel like the Trump administration isn't that stubborn where they would have not given up by now. And maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that. But I mean, they've had multiple rulings at this point. They've had people screaming at their necks, and I know they're kind of trying to do his own dictatorship thing, but at the end of the day, sometimes it's better just to cut your losses, you know? I mean, and even with El Salvador, they've been so on the point of not even returning the man. They've said themselves that they don't want to return him. And I feel like that enough in itself should be proof that he's not alive anymore. And that's unfortunate to say, and I wish I couldn't say that, and I wish we could know that he was still alive, but by the looks of it, that's what it is. Moving on to the other news segment today, we have 3 topics to cover. Hong Kong has stopped shipments to the United States. California is suing Trump over the tariffs, and Biden's first speech since leaving the White House. Let's get started. I just closed out of the entire Google Doc. Give me a second. Okay. Hong Kong has stopped shipments to the United States. Hong Kong Post said on Wednesday it had been suspending mail services of goods sent by sea to the United States, accusing the U.S. of bullying after Washington. Wait, where was I? Accusing the U.S. of bullying after Washington canceled tariff-free trade provisions for packages from China and Hong Kong. In their statement, they said they would also suspend airmail containing goods destined for the U.S. from April 27th. The U.S. is set to halt de minimis provision for packages from China and Hong Kong, under which those valued under $800 and sent directly to consumers enter the country tariff-free. This means orders from sites like Shein or Temu will be subject to a 90% tariff or a flat fee of $75 per shipment. Rest in peace, Shein and Temu. You both will be missed. But on a serious note, this is not only annoying, but absolutely insane. I've said since the start that this will have big impacts on not only American consumers, but your day-to-day lives. But $75 for a Shein order that, for me personally is like $25 when I buy something is absolutely insane. That means like a normal order's costing $100. No. um, and I know that it's fucked up that they use like Chinese labor and all these other things, and I will never stand for that. But at the end of the day, clothes aren't cheap, and that's not me justifying it. But I'm broke. I grew up poor. I can't afford everything. Farmers don't make a lot of money. In case you didn't know, so sometimes you gotta cut your losses and kind of do what's best for you financial wise. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is insane. It's going to impact consumers long term, and I know they say that it'll be better long term, but it never will be better long term. I don't know about you, but as I just mentioned, right now $75 is a lot of money for me, and I need clothes, so we'll see how it goes. But I don't think I'll be shopping with Shein anytime soon. I might have to deal with the fact that American shirts are like $30. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. California is suing Trump over his tariffs. California Governor Gavin Newsom has filed a lawsuit against Trump's tariffs. This suit marks the first time the state has sued over the levies. The White House dismissed a lawsuit saying it would continue to address the national emergency that's decimating America's industries instead of focusing on California's rampant crime, homelessness, and unaffordability. Gavin Newsom is spending all of his time to block President Trump's historic efforts to finally address the nation's national emergency of our country's persistent goods trade deficit. Newsom, however, argues that California has been disproportionately affected by the tariffs, and that's why the state has filed 15 lawsuits since January of this year. California is the fifth largest economy, which is crazy to say, but as someone who was born and raised in California, that's something I am particularly pretty proud of, and I feel like that's something to be proud about. There's been a lot of calls recently for California to just secede from the United States. It's the strong economy. It has, you know, clearly economic strength and would likely have its own military strength, solid military strength for that matter. And I think California could, in fact, do well as a nation on itself. But that's not something I'm going to support, and that's not going to be something I'm going to say we should do. Because at the end of the day, I think it is truly beneficial for California to stay a part of the United States. There is a lot of benefits to being in the United States. I know it doesn't seem like that right now, but at the end of the day, I mean, the US government has good negotiating power, it has good connections, it has so many good things that are beneficial to California, not to mention they have a great military that defends California, not to mention the United States geography is honestly insane and makes the country insanely hard to invade. And, even other things like nuclear facilities and all these other things that go into the reason why a country is, our country is together. Um, I don't think California should leave, nor do I think any other state should leave. That's just something I am not personally for. And I know a lot of people have their own opinions on that. I know a lot of people think that if a state doesn't want to be in the union, they should be able to leave. But I think if a state could just leave the union whatsoever, that has a lot of effects on not only our own government, but you know world powers as a whole. And I think that's a lot more of an issue than it is a positive for the people living in the state and the country. There are random people who just spawned in I've never seen before. Um, but yeah, I mean, Governor Newsom has said on multiple occasions that countries won't experience tariffs from California. And honestly, I think that's something that other states should do. If Trump's not going to listen to the government right now, why should the states have to listen to him? And, it's impacting these citizens' lives. And states should do their best to fight for their citizens' rights. Maybe if California stops paying all those taxes that they pay and don't get back, we could finally have things like a high speed railway or, maybe help fix the homelessness problem and so many other things, because California pays way more taxes than it gets in return from the government. And those taxes probably could go a long way in working with California and solving so many issues within the state. Moving on, Biden's first speech since leaving the White House. Joe Biden has used his first speech since leaving office to criticize the Trump administration's welfare policies. The former president said in a conference in Chicago that the government had taken a hatchet to the Social Security system. Biden did not refer to Trump by name during his speech, but would say in fewer than 100 days, this new administration has done so much damage and so much destruction. It's kind of breathtaking. He described Social Security as a sacred promise, adding, "We know just how much Social Security matters to people's lives." This was a good speech. It was overall pretty entertaining. Biden went to, I believe, an Alzheimer's Foundation meeting and spoke there. If you didn't watch the speech, I do recommend it. That's all about I have to say on how good the speech was. I do feel sorry for Biden. Trump seems to berate him in every little thing, but I'm glad to see that he continues to speak out as not only a former president, but as a politician. Most of his life he has spoken for what the American people believe in for the most part, and he's done a pretty good job doing it, in my opinion, at least. He wasn't the worst president, definitely not as bad as Trump, and I feel that he does deserve to retire. That's for sure. We haven't seen much from the former president, and it's good to see him. It's good to see him being well, doing well. But that's about all I have to say on that, and that's about all the news I have to cover today. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Hope all you guys had a good one. Hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you're on YouTube, drop a subscription. We're on our way to 100 subscribers. We're getting close. I believe we're at 92. So, share the videos with your friends and family. Get people to subscribe. We're trying to hit 100. If you're on Substack, consider pledging your support, or subscribing is always free. If you do pledge your support, all funds go to me. They help me pay for the things I need to in college, and they will help me buy like food and clothes and all sorts of things. With that being said, thank you everyone so much for watching. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. Drop a comment down below, leave a like, tell me what you thought about today's episode. With that being said, I'll see you all tomorrow with another episode. Later.